So this is where we left off last time. I think what I want to do is because some of you are having some issues with essentially the performance of this water, essentially this water actor. So what I'd like to do is get is sort of start you off a little bit just fresh with maybe something that's a little bit not as taxing on your computer, but we're going to be doing essentially the same thing. Okay. So let's try this. I'm going to go ahead and just delete. We're just going to kind of start a little bit fresh. So I'm going to delete these the water zones here, water body, ocean, water zone. And then what I want to do here is just for the moment, I'm going to select my landscape and just delete that out. Um, and let's see, hold on, let's get rid of that landscape water brush too. Here we go. And actually, you know what we could do? We can save this scene and then let's just make a new scene, new level. And I'll just do a basic level here and then just create it. And that way you have it still. And again, I don't want to make you feel like you have to do a lot of work, but this is more for people, and this could be for anybody. If you find that it's really taxing, just start over, kind of fresh here with some basic stuff. So I'm going to delete the floor, and I'm going to hit select my player start here. Just hit F to focus on that, zoom out a little bit, and then I want to go to my landscape. So selection mode, landscape, and I would like to essentially create a new landscape here. And I would like to select that M underscore environment material that we created before. This is the master material. And for the selection size, I'm going to go pretty small here. So again, for performance reasons. And for the quads here, let's do 31 by 31 quads. And then I think the number of components is fine. I mean, that's a little bit smaller, and I think that should work okay for you guys. We could probably even go a little bit smaller than this, but just wondering if it's, let's go ahead and hit, make sure that enable edit layers on, or the water will not work with it, and hit create. So here we go. We have our environment here. If you remember under paint, just select your grass and just make it really big. Let's see. And we're under paint here. And as you're painting, oh, we never assigned the layer info. So let's go ahead and hit plus here, wait, blend layer, and then just save those out again. And let's see, brush size, I'm gonna make that pretty big and then select my grass. And now I should be able to just paint across and we shouldn't have that funkiness anymore. And hopefully now this will, you'll be able to, if you don't have as powerful as a PC or Mac, this should hopefully make it okay for you to use this, use the water stuff. Okay, so we have our landscape here. I'm gonna go ahead and hit Command S. Make sure to save often because you are still going to get some crashing. And then in scene here, I'm just gonna name this, we'll just do a level 01 here instead of environment test bed, just so we can differentiate between the two. Let's go to make sure we're in selection mode now. Let's select our environment and let's just make sure these are zeroed out. So 0, I think 0 and 0. I think that's good. And I'm gonna hit F to focus on that. And then over here, let's type in water. And now we should be able to select our water body ocean and drop that in our scene here. And I'm gonna select layer this time. And let's see, hit complete. And now we should have, a cleaner, more defined, just a basic scene. So if we move our water up and down, you could see that it affects the placement of it, right? Like it's sitting right on top of the water here. And we have, let's see, let me hit F to focus on this. And we have some things going on here. Like we can actually affect the placement of our island. And let's see, how high are we off the ground here? Let's see, this is all zeroed out. And if I zero this out and then move it again, you can see anything that's within this zone, the the splines will differentiate as an island. So actually, let's hit R here and scale this down a little bit, and scale it this way too. And you can see now we have more of an island than a like a landmass. So now that makes sense that like it would be surrounded by an ocean, right, on all these sides. Let's go a little bit inside. There we go. All right, and then just kind of scrolling in here, and I could use my arrow keys to kind of zoom in a little bit quicker. And if we turn this way, you can see that it's all in the water, right? That's our island right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just save this. And let's take a look at how we can manipulate this in the splines. So go ahead and select your Wadi Ocean here. All right, I might scale that down just a little bit more. Something to pay attention to is you have to keep this, your water body ocean, inside of this area here, or it gets cut off. So this is your water zone. So if I move my water zone here, you can see, it's cutting off from where it should be in the water bound. So go ahead and make sure that you always have this sort of in here. And again, I'm just selecting the whole water body thing here and just hitting R. And we could always, as we update this, remember, we can still sculpt on the surface of this landscape, right? So if I go in here and let's see, let's grab our player start here and then just, we should place this guy here in the middle, somewhere over here. Come on, player start. If I hit F to focus on that, you can see here's our player start. And if I press play here, you can see we are definitely, it's still really huge, the island itself, even though the water is all the way out there. And if I want to, let's go back out to our landscape here by selecting it, and then I'm just going to hit F to focus out here. Come on, F. There we go. It seems like I can always just change this from water up here to landscape mode, and I can grab my sculpting tool this time, and I can still manipulate this, right? So let's say I want to add like a, let's kind of fly in here a little bit. Maybe a sort of cliff like we had before coming up this way here, right? I can go ahead and still grab my sculpt tool here, increase my brush size, just kind of sculpt this up a little bit. So I'm still sculpting here up to this way. Now the issue is with this is, let me go back to selection mode. This water body ocean zone here, this is the area inside of here, which is my landmass. That's why it's getting cut off. And we can control the distance that the area on the inside is affected, which will allow us to sculpt, right? So I could change the offset here by playing with these values. See that? So things like that. All right, so let's take a look at this in much more detail, starting with these splines, right? So let's say we want to change the shape of our island. I can actually move this out a little bit. I can hold Alt or Option. I can grab create another pin, and I can create kind of like a cooler shaped island, right? Same thing here. I can drag this out by holding Option or Alt, and drag that out a little bit more, and you could see that it could see where that sculpt is that we were doing a little bit earlier. And I'm going to just jump into my player start here at F and then zoom out a little bit this way. And you could still go in and paint, right, using that landscape tool. All right, so let's take a look at some of these settings. So I'm going to go to my water body ocean here. And I'm going to scroll down to make sure you're at the highest level here. And I'm going to look for terrain. And that's located right below water here. So you want to expand your curve settings here. And what we're essentially getting here is, you can see, let's also expand our water height map settings. There's a couple things going on. We could adjust the amount of that fall off. Remember that between where we were sculpting and our where we were sculpting in the side of our our ocean here. So you could do that by playing with these numbers, right? There's a channel depth, that's how deep we want to go. And I'll show you these a little bit more when we get into lakes. But inside of here, there's these fall off settings and there's edge offset. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring that up a little bit, and you could see that that's the offset from here all the way into the water. There's these options here, which is for curling, and this is kind of a cool. I like to mess with these a little bit because right now this looks like an almost a man-made island. It looks almost too perfect. But if we change our curling amount, for example, 1 to 0.5, you could see it starts to adjust the curling or the edges of it. So if I do that with curling amount 2, that's 0.5 here, you can see it starts to really bring it in. It makes it a little bit more interesting, our island here. And the same thing down here. If let's say I make this 32, with these two, curling 1 tiling and curling 2, is it adjusts the tiling of it. So you'll start to notice that as we play with these numbers, it really breaks up that edge. And if I make this smaller, like almost 0, and I make this one 0 here, you can see we're getting a little bit more of that smoothness. Where if we make this, let's say 128 or something, we start to get little speckles out here of sand. So that's kind of another nice way of adjusting this. There's also displacement here, which we could adjust based on the height. Let's see, bring that back. So for texture, I'm not sure what textures I have, if I have any noise in here. Let's see, here's some noise right here. If I use some noise, what I can do is that could add a little bit of information to essentially the way that the floor is set up. And I haven't added any real, inside of displacement, I haven't added any height or anything, but we add a little bit of the noise in that texture. And as I adjust the height in here, you'll start to see that we get, let's see, what is this one? Oh, let's actually zero this one out. I think we have to adjust it a little bit more, but we can get some nice, like little bumps and stuff inside of here. Actually, let me see if I bring this down. This water body. Yeah, it's giving me that little line. Let's bring this up a little bit. Just going to play with the height so I can get rid of this. Let's see. Let's make this 0 maybe. What do we got going on here? And 10. Maybe minus 10. Yeah, I have to tweak it a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So it looks like I have to go a little bit negative. So let's do minus 50. There we go. And so now we're entering the water area, and we're not getting. I was just worried about this little line here. It was not necessarily important, but maybe somewhere around minus 30 will smooth that out. Yeah, that looks like it smoothed it out. All right, so let's take a look back at our displacement here. Let me take a look at the different types of noise that we have. Let's see. So let's try maybe, I wanted something that was a little bit black and white. So maybe this guy right here. We don't want the midpoint to be minus 128. We want it to be 0, so it's dead center there. And displacement height, let's try 100. And let's place displacement tiling as 1. And let's see what we get. Yeah, this might not be that much of a displacement information to affect that. Let's try 1000 and see what that does. Yeah, it's just kind of pushing down into that center area there a little bit. Let's do 100 again. And it could be how low we set the resolution. And I'm going to kind of expand my water body zone a little bit more. No, I think for just information purposes, we'll leave it as is. Yeah, since we set the original landscape to pretty low, we're getting very subtle. Let me try the tiling of this to maybe 20 or 10. Let's see if that does anything. And I'll zoom in on player start here. Yeah, we're not getting a lot of information. Yeah, just the resolution of our ground is not that high. But just if you had a higher resolution ground plane, when you use that noise, it'll actually use this noise information to create a bumpier surface. I'll try one last time to add some little bit deeper noise here. Let's see, maybe this one. See if that added. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I understand why. So the channel here is actually taking in the black information. It should be inverted. So let's change this to white, and we should see our displacement information. There we go. So see how it's added a little bit of bumpiness or displacement to our ground there? So that's kind of nice that we can use a texture for that. And then if you really want to adjust it, let's try 200 and probably give it a little bit. There we go. You know, and the same thing with our water body ocean positioning here. If we make this 0, yeah, let's see if we can just hit W and play with that height manually. Come on. I'm gonna pause the video and see if I can find a good number where it'll actually even all this out. So I had to settle it around minus 290 to get that to be a little bit smoother. But anyway, you can see here with displacement, it gives us a little bit of nicer bump information here. Let's see, same thing with curling. We can take another look at that at curling just to kind of see how we can make it feel even more natural. So if I kind of bring this up a little bit more. That looks pretty good. Same thing with this. You get a lot more, just kind of nice information there. And what I want to do too is let's take this displacement. Let's see, displacement. Tiling to 10 is fine. And then if you want to really get it so that it affects the inside, if you set this outer smooth distance to something like, I don't know, let's try 50 or 100, and inner smooth distance to 100. Let's see, it smooths it all out, but we're not getting it into that middle part. All right, so we played with this one a little bit, a good amount of time. So let's take a look at another water system, and that could be our water body lake. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that and just drop it inside of here. And I'm just gonna move this, I don't know, somewhere. Come on, water body lake. Let's select the whole system here. And it's gonna scale that down a little bit. Let's just even that out a little bit like that. And there we go. Okay. I'm gonna hit F to focus on that. So this is kind of the same thing, but what's nice about this is we're building in a lake into somewhere in our island, right? So I'm gonna hit W, just kind of move these points around a little bit. Same thing here. And what it's doing is it's placing, a body of water in the center of our, in the center of our island. All right, so something else that's cool about the water body lakes is it actually manipulates the landscape similar to the water body ocean. So if you select your lake here and then you just kind of move it up on the z-axis here, you could see what I've created is I've kind of created like a hill with our little lake on there. And we can manipulate, by playing with the channel depth and these other curves, essentially how deep the water is. So if we go 1000 here, for instance, we're going to get like a deeper, more flush ocean. Our curve ramp, let's say we do 0 here, you could see it's very deep there. And so we're going to play with how smooth we want that ramp to be. So let's say we do 1000 this way. You can see we get a bit of a smoother ramp. And now we have sort of like a pool sitting on top. And if we move the whole water body lake over, it moves with it. You see that? All right, now the last thing I want to do is maybe is cover the water body river. So let's type in water here, make sure that comes up. And then we have a island, ocean, and this water body river. So if I drag this in, you're gonna see we get another spline curve here. And let's see, let's find the different points. So I can select that first point, I can bring it up this way. Hit F to focus on that guy. And move that inside of here. And we could kind of move these into here. So we're getting them to match up. And I can grab this and I can adjust kind of like the fall off of this a little bit. Come on. And remember, this is kind of all experimental, so it's going to be buggy. You have to save as much as you can because, you know, it could crash on you at any point. But you see how I'm moving this down, and it's sort of creating a river that goes out into, like, from this pond of water here. So for some reason, this like water volcano has water coming up. And let me move that inside a little bit more so it kind of makes better sense. And then you could also, remember, you can select this, hold Alt or Option, and you can create like more of a meandering thing going on like that. So, I mean, this is just a great way, really beautiful way of, you know, using these tools or utilizing these tools. And I think even after this class is finished, I'm going to continue this series because I think it'd be nice to show you guys how to create water materials, shaders, things like that. I think it's just going to help you when you go to apply for jobs and stuff.